Hello and welcome to another cozy mystery here on The Curious Case. I'm your host, Davis. Where are you listening from tonight? How has your day been? Let's share a quiet moment before the kettle sings. Now, let's begin tonight's story. Afternoon light over Street Marymead. Soft even, quiet. Miss Marple sat near the window, knitting basket open, two threads crossed. One pale, one crimson. She paused to untangle them. The clock ticked on the mantel. Steady, predictable, small comfort. The smell of lavender polish drifted faintly. Faithful had dusted earlier. Everything was in order, everything where it should be. The village outside was calm. Children's laughter echoed from the green. A dog barked once, then silence. The milk cart rattled past. Routine. Always the same after Christmas. Miss Marple adjusted her spectacles. Her fingers moved quickly. Years of habit made them sure. The rhythm soothed her thoughts. She enjoyed small order. Order meant safety. Order meant understanding. A knock came at the front door. Not loud, not hurried. Just 3 even taps. Faithful went to answer. Marple didn't look up. She counted stitches. 24. 25. Stop. A pause. Voices in the hall. Too quiet to hear clearly. Faithful returned with a small envelope. "From the post, ma'am," she said. No sender's name. Plain paper. Edges slightly damp from snow. Miss Marple frowned. She wasn't expecting correspondence. Most letters came after New Year. She set her knitting aside. Examined the envelope. Lightweight. Thin paper. No seal, only a fold. Not a bill, not an invitation. The writing on it was cramped, almost nervous. She used a hairpin to lift the flap. A single sheet inside. No signature. One short line, written in pencil. "Ask about the man at the inn." Marple read it twice. No more words. No explanation. Just that. The man at the inn. She folded it carefully. Slid it back into the envelope. Faithful watched from the doorway. "Something wrong, Miss Marple?" Marple shook her head. "Nothing at all," she said softly, but her mind was already moving. A man at the inn. There were travelers, yes, but the village had few strangers in winter. She rose and went to the window. The snow from yesterday still lingered. Footprints marked the path by the gate. Some small, some heavy. Different directions. Too many for one morning. On the green, a group of children rolled snow. 3 shapes forming slowly. Laughter carried faintly through the cold. Snowman again. Always snowman after Christmas. She watched for a moment, then turned away. Her tea had cooled. The taste was flat, metallic. She glanced back at her knitting basket. 2 threads still crossed. The crimson strand looped over the white. It wasn't hers. She didn't remember adding red. She looked closer. The thread was new. Different texture, different weight. She pulled it free. A short piece. Snapped at one end. She held it between her fingers. Not wool. Silk. Very fine. And faintly scented. Lavender, yes, but something else beneath. Something sharper. Perfume she didn't own. Her eyes narrowed slightly. She placed the thread aside. Beside the letter. One small clue beside another. No reason to connect them. And yet, outside, the laughter had stopped. Only the ticking clock remained. Even. Patient. Like someone waiting. Miss Marple sat back down. She reached for her knitting again. But her hands had gone still. Her mind, not her fingers, was working now. A red thread. A strange letter. A name not given. A man at the inn. Something in the quiet had shifted. Something small. Felt wrong. The envelope lay where she'd left it. Beside the red thread. Beside the cooling tea. Miss Marple glanced at it again. Plain paper. Folded corners. The writing uneven. Pressed too hard. A hand unused to deceit, perhaps. Or one too nervous to hide it. Faithful had gone to the kitchen. Kettle hissed faintly. The small domestic sound steadied the air. But her thoughts were not still. A man at the inn. The note said only that. No name. No reason. No warning. She thought of the Harpers. Respectable people. Quiet couple. They ran the King's Arms cleanly. Never any complaint. Except once. Last summer. A small quarrel about deliveries. Nothing serious. Nothing worth remembering until now. She folded the letter again. Placed it inside her pattern book. Safe for later. The thread still puzzled her. Silk. Unusual color for winter garments. Too bright for mourning. Too fine for village use. Imported, perhaps, from London. Someone had means or taste. The clock struck 3. Sound sharp in the quiet. Miss Marple rose. The air felt heavier somehow. Routine had shifted, subtly. She sensed it. Faithful returned with a tray. "Visitors this afternoon, ma'am?" "Not that I know of." Faithful frowned. "Then who was at the gate?" Marple turned. "At the gate? Yes, ma'am. A man just now. Didn't come up the path. Just stood there, looking toward the house." Marple went to the window. The snow reflected pale light. Tracks marked the lane, half filled already. A tall figure had been there, yes. Boot prints. Deep. Deliberate. Not the milkman's, too heavy. Not a villager's, no stick, no hurry. She studied the prints. They stopped at the fence. No approach. No retreat. Only a small scuff where he had turned. Then nothing. He'd left the way he came. Faithful waited. Did he speak? "No, ma'am. Just looked once, then walked off." Miss Marple said nothing. She returned to her chair. Her knitting lay untouched. She did not pick it up. People did not linger by her gate for nothing. Not in cold like this. And certainly not men she didn't know. She poured the tea again. It was bitter now. She sipped once, set the cup down. A sound came from outside. Not footsteps. A dull thud. Then silence. Faithful turned sharply. "Perhaps the cart, ma'am. Perhaps," Marple said softly. She crossed to the back window. The view opened to the lane beyond the hedge. Everything still, except a shape at the far edge of the garden, dark against the snow. Someone moving, slowly. Her hand rested on the curtain. She didn't draw it back. She only watched. One step, then another, toward the inn's direction. The same height. Same coat color she had glimpsed once before, brown wool, long cut. She remembered now. The salesman from the chemist. George Evans. So the man from the letter existed. She let the curtain fall. Her mind sorted the facts neatly. An anonymous note. A red thread. A man at her gate. Too much coincidence for one afternoon. Outside, the faint crunch of snow faded. Only the ticking clock remained again. Regular. Steady. And at the gate a face turned back once. Just long enough for her to see it. Then gone. The thread on her table stirred faintly in the draught. It moved as if something unseen had passed through the room. Miss Marple looked toward the door. Her voice was quiet. "Faithful," she said. "Draw the curtains." Because the face at the gate was smiling. Morning came with chatter. The kind that travels faster than post. By noon, half the village had heard. A stranger. A man seen near Miss Marple's gate. Mrs. Price Ridley told it first. She met Mrs. Bantry at the grocer's. Said she'd seen footprints on the lane. Large ones. Not local. "Boots like that," she said, "belong to London folk, not gardeners." Mrs. Bantry adjusted her hat. "London folk don't wander Street Mary Mead for pleasure." The butcher's boy nodded eagerly. "He bought matches," he said. "Paid with a 10-shilling note. Who does that for matches?" The shop fell quiet. Everyone looked at everyone else. Small villages breed silence fast. Miss Marple happened to enter just then. Shopping list folded neat in her hand. "Good morning," she said mildly. That single greeting made Mrs. Price Ridley lower her voice, but not stop. "Have you heard, Miss Marple? A traveller from the inn, hanging about after dusk. Strange, isn't it?" "Perhaps he lost his way," Miss Marple said, her tone even, her eyes calm. "Or perhaps added Mrs. Bantry. He wasn't alone. A pause. A loaded kind. Even the tins on the shelf seemed to listen. Mrs. Bantry leaned closer. Faithful told my cook something curious. That a note came yesterday. No name, no sender. Just a warning. Her eyes flicked toward Miss Marple. Wouldn't that give you shivers? Miss Marple smiled faintly. One shouldn't let shivers guide reason. Then asked for tea biscuits. 2 packets. No more said. But she noted who looked away first. At the post office. Another tale waited. Mr. Briggs, the postmaster, polished his glasses. Said the same man had sent a telegram. To Birmingham. Apparently. A wife. Perhaps. Name of Evans, he muttered. Yes. George Evans. Travelling salesman. Pharmaceutical trade. He tapped the counter thoughtfully. Nice enough fellow, quiet. But I didn't like his eyes. Too polite when he didn't need to be. Miss Marple thanked him. Walked out slowly. Snow had melted into grey slush. Footprints blurred. But she remembered the name. Evans. It fit the letter. It fit the face. She stopped by the vicarage gate. Mrs. Clement called from the path. Did you hear? The Harpers have a guest who can't leave. Snow's trapped him. A salesman, so they say. Miss Marple's eyes narrowed slightly. So I hear. Odd timing, isn't it? Mrs. Clement lowered her voice. Edith Harper looked dreadful at church, pale as linen. Miss Marple nodded. Guilt shows first in the 2 T's. Complexion, she said softly. Mrs. Clement blinked. Do you think? I think, Miss Marple interrupted gently, that Snow keeps secrets only until the thaw. And she walked on, leaving the vicar's wife staring after her, as the bell from the church tower tolled once and stopped too soon. Afternoon light faded early. The snow had stopped, but silence stayed. Children played on the green. Their laughter carried faintly across the lane. Miss Marple watched from her window. 3 snowmen stood in a row, each with buttons, each with a crooked hat. Tommy Briggs led the group proudly. He'd taken charge, as always. His sister held a scarf, red wool. Too large for her, but perfect for a snowman. Faithful came in with coal for the fire. Cold enough to freeze a sermon, ma'am. Marple smiled. Yes, but the children don't mind. No sense in it, Faithful said. Snow hides too much. Makes people careless. Outside, a cart creaked. Past. The driver shouted once. A wheel slipped on ice. Then a crash. A heavy, dull sound. Children's screams followed. Miss Marple rose at once. Faithful dropped her coal scuttle. They hurried to the door. The cold hit sharp. The air smelled of iron and frost. On the green, the cart had struck the largest snowman. It had fallen sideways, split apart. Children stood back, pale and silent. The driver climbed down slowly. Didn't see it, he stammered. Blasted thing rolled under the wheel. But it wasn't the snow that stopped them all. It was what lay inside it. Something dark showed through the white. Not coal. Not a branch. A coat sleeve. Wool. Brown. And soaked through. Miss Marple's steps were measured. She came close enough to see the truth. A man's arm. The glove gone. Fingers curled tight. Frozen. Dr. Haydock pushed through the crowd. Stand back, he ordered. He knelt, brushed snow aside. His hand paused, then looked up at her once. Recognition there. Not surprise recognition. Dead some hours, he said quietly. Before morning, I'd wager. Constable Pork arrived, breathless. Who found him? Tommy Briggs raised his hand slowly. I did, sir. I just wanted to fix his hat. His voice trembled. I didn't know there was someone inside. Marple's eyes moved from the snow to the scarf lying nearby. Not red wool, blue silk. Fine. With small initials stitched at one corner. E.H. She looked toward the inn, a single chimney smoking faintly. No movement at the door. No one watching. But she felt it. Someone there. Someone waiting. The constable took notes clumsily. Doctor? Haydock covered the face with his handkerchief. Mrs. Bantry crossed herself. No one spoke again. Miss Marple bent once more. Snow clung to the scarf. She brushed it gently. The thread glimmered faintly in the pale light. Lavender scent still lingered, and as the snow beneath began to melt, truth began to melt with it. The body was moved to the inn. Dr. Haydock stayed. Inspector Craddock arrived before dusk. Snow had hardened again. No footprints remained clear. Miss Marple stood by the gate, watching, listening, filing details one by one. One scarf, blue silk, initials E.H., too fine for a man, too personal to be found by chance. One ring, missing from the hand. Fingers showed a pale mark, recent removal, voluntary or forced, that mattered. One coat, heavy wool, London tailoring, new, money behind it, not village-made. One wallet, empty, no coins, no papers, no identification. Inspector Craddock joined her. "Looks simple enough," he said. She smiled faintly. "It rarely is." He nodded toward the inn. "The Harpers claim they don't know him, but someone housed him there." Marple looked at the chimney smoke. He was comfortable enough to sleep, uncomfortable enough to die outside. Craddock frowned. "You think he left? Willingly?" "Not willingly," she said. Cautiously. He made a note, then turned. "Someone must have seen him last night." "Yes," Marple said softly. "Someone always sees. They just don't understand what they saw." Faithful came with Marple's coat, her face pale. "Mrs. Harper's crying, ma'am. Says the man took supper there yesterday. Paid well. Ate little. Left before dark." Marple listened carefully. "Did he say why he came?" "Only that he was waiting on a letter." Marple's eyes flicked once. The letter. The one on her table. No sender, no signature. A warning about a man at the inn. Coincidence never came alone. It always brought pattern. She turned to the constable. "Did he wear gloves?" "Yes, miss. Brown leather. Found one near the hedge." "One glove," she repeated, "not two." Craddock watched her closely. "You think it means something?" "It always means something. Even what's missing. Speaks." He sighed. "I'll question the Harpers again." "Do," she said gently, "and ask about their deliveries." "Deliveries?" "Someone brings more than bread in this village." He stared, then nodded. Marple turned away. The snow crunched beneath her shoes. The village was quiet again, too quiet. She paused near the well. The bucket rope was frayed. Someone had used it recently. She touched the fibers. Cold, wet, clean, too clean. She straightened slowly. No blood, no struggle. A death arranged, not fought. She looked back toward the inn. Smoke still rose, steady, harmless. Appearances never frightened her. They lied politely. One ring, one scarf, one glove. Each clue tidy, deliberate, waiting. Miss Marple folded her hands, her voice barely a whisper. "People hide deeds better than guilt," she said, "and guilt always leaves a thread." Inspector Craddock removed his gloves, laid them neatly on the table. The inn's kitchen smelled faintly of coal and tea. He opened his notebook. Miss Marple sat opposite him, hands folded, eyes calm. "Name still unknown," he began. "No identification at all?" she asked. "None. No wallet contents, no papers." And his watch. "Stopped at 8:30. She nodded slowly. An ordinary time for something unordinary. He wrote the phrase down. "Mrs. Harper says he came yesterday evening. Alone. Ordered soup. Hardly spoke." "Polite?" Marple asked. "Overly polite," she said. Marple's eyes lifted. People are rarely polite when comfortable. Craddock flipped a page. "She also claims she never saw him leave. Yet he died outside." "Yes, which makes little sense. Unless," she murmured, "someone wanted him to leave, unseen." He frowned. "You think he was lured out?" "Perhaps. A note, a meeting. Something ordinary enough not to alarm him." Craddock tapped his pencil. "Could be robbery. The wallet says otherwise." "True. Could be personal. Possible." She paused. "Or domestic." He looked up. "Domestic?" Revenge wears a quiet coat, Inspector. He closed the notebook. Mrs. Harper insists she doesn't know the man. Her husband says the same. Marple smiled faintly. People always agree when fear is shared. He leaned back. You don't believe them? I rarely believe anyone immediately. Her tone gentle. Not challenge, only fact. Craddock sighed. This village hides more under manners than most cities. Quite true, she said. And that's why murders here always begin with tea. He blinked. Tea? Yes. Someone sits, listens, pretends comfort, then decides. Craddock rose. I'll question them again. We'll find the truth soon enough. Marple nodded. Truth is patient, Inspector. People are not. He smiled slightly. I'll note that as philosophy. It's habit, she replied. I prefer pattern to poetry. He gathered his hat, paused by the door. One last thing, the scarf blue silk. Any thought on the initials? E.H. Yes. Marple's tone was soft. Not his. They belong to someone who still breathes. Craddock frowned. Meaning? You'll know when she stops pretending she doesn't. He hesitated, then left. The door closed quietly. Miss Marple looked at the teacups on the tray. 2 used, 1 untouched. She glanced toward the window. The snow outside was smooth again, unbroken, except for a faint line, a single set of steps leading back toward the well. Her eyes followed them slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. He'll search in the wrong place, she said. Her eyes followed the truth he missed. By the next morning, truth had grown wings, and several new heads. At the grocer's, Mrs. Price Ridley said it first. He was a smuggler. That's what I heard. Brought goods from Dover. Mr. Archer shook his head. Nonsense. He was a taxman. They killed him for asking questions. Mrs. Bantry interrupted both. Wrong again. My maid's cousin swore he was a spy. German, most likely. Look at the timing. Snow, silence, and secrets always come together. The shopkeeper said nothing, just weighed the sugar slowly. He'd heard another version. Could be jealousy. Could be a woman. Always is, in the end. Outside, the blacksmith joined in. Saw him at the inn last night. Drank alone. Didn't look like a spy to me. More like a man in trouble. That's the same thing, Mrs. Bantry muttered. Voices rose, each version louder, each less possible. Everyone certain. Everyone wrong. Miss Marple entered quietly. Bought bread. Listened. Said nothing. No one noticed how she smiled faintly at the details. Mr. Archer turned to her suddenly. You must know something, Miss Marple. You always do. She shook her head. I know only what people repeat twice. They laughed, then carried on inventing. By noon the man had become a thief. By 2, a lover. By evening, both. At the vicarage, Mrs. Clement served tea, sighed over the rumors. Dreadful business. No one remembers he was a person first. The vicar nodded solemnly. Fear is louder than fact, my dear. Miss Marple agreed politely. But her eyes stayed thoughtful. Indeed, though fear sometimes tells truth by accident. Mrs. Clement tilted her head. You think someone knows? Someone always knows. They just say it badly. They drank in silence. Outside, the bells rang 6, the sound sharp in the frost. Marple rose to leave. Her scarf slipped. Mrs. Clement bent to help. Oh dear, she said suddenly. I forgot Edith Harper came by earlier. Brought butter for the church sale. Said she hadn't slept all night. Marple smiled gently. She told the dash. Inspector, she slept soundly. Mrs. Clement blinked. Did she? Well, perhaps I heard wrong. Marple tied her scarf. Perhaps, she said softly, and stepped into the cold. The church bell stopped mid-ring. Too soon again. Exactly as yesterday. The village liked answers, even wrong ones. By evening, the inspector had one. A name. George Evans. Salesman. Traveller. His suitcase found in the inn's back room. Miss Marple listened quietly as he spoke. Clothes matched the size. Initials G.E. on the cuff. Then he's our man, she said softly. He nodded. Everything fits. Faithful poured tea in silence. Craddock opened the case. Inside papers, receipts, labels. Birmingham, Manchester, ordinary trade routes. Nothing strange, nothing human, just order. A folded letter sat on top, typed, unsigned, request for a meeting, addressed to Mr. Evans. He read it aloud. 8 o'clock. The Green. Come alone. He looked up. Clear enough motive. Robbery gone wrong. Miss Marple stirred her tea slowly. Perhaps, she said, her tone neutral. Always neutral. Craddock frowned. You doubt it? I rarely doubt facts, she replied. I question who arranged them. He glanced at her. You think it's planted? Too soon to think anything, she said. Still. She paused. People tidy lies the way they tidy rooms. Too much care draws attention. He turned back to the suitcase. A pair of gloves, a pocket knife, a small envelope with coins, and a photograph. He held it up. A woman smiling faintly. Young, dark hair, fine coat. The initials E.H. etched on the corner of the frame. Craddock's voice sharpened. There, Edith Harper. Her scarf, her initials, her guest. That ties it all neatly. Miss Marple looked at the picture. Yes, very neatly. Faithful set down the tray. Mrs. Harper told me she'd never met him before, she murmured. Craddock nodded. She lied. The picture proves it. Marple's fingers rested on the tablecloth. She didn't argue, just listened. People always revealed themselves while celebrating certainty. Craddock rose. I'll bring her in tonight. It's clear enough. Marple smiled faintly. Clarity can be dangerous, Inspector. He frowned. Meaning? Meaning, she said. Truth dislikes straight lines. He left briskly. Faithful closed the door behind him. The sound echoed longer than it should. Marple turned the photograph over. On the back, a faint marking smudged, reversed. Letters backward. Not E-H at all. H-E. She stared at it a moment, then replaced it carefully. A perfect trail. A perfect lie. Everything too neat, and she knew it. Evening settled heavy over Street Mary Mead. The snow outside had turned to slush. Inside the inn, warmth lingered, but peace did not. Miss Marple sat by the hearth. Mrs. Harper poured tea with unsteady hands. Her eyes were red, her mouth tight. I didn't kill him, she said quietly. No one said you did, Marple replied. But you think it. Marple didn't answer. The silence did. Mrs. Harper sat down. Her fingers trembled on the cup. I knew him, she whispered. Years ago. Before I married Henry. Marple waited. No judgment. No comfort either. Truth needed space, not sympathy. He came once before. Long ago, he said he'd changed his name. Said he was finished with that life. What life? Marple asked softly. Selling things he shouldn't. Chemicals, powders, false medicines. People got sick. One woman died. She covered her face. Her voice cracked. I thought it was behind us. I begged him not to come again. Yet he did. Yes. He said he needed money. Just one payment, he said. He knew my husband's roots. He wanted access to the storeroom. Did you give it? No. I swore I wouldn't. I told him to leave. He said if I refused, he'd tell Henry everything. About the letters. About the years before. Marple nodded once. Blackmail, she said. Mrs. Harper nodded too. Tears slipped silently down her face. I didn't see him again. Not until this morning. The scarf, he took it from the kitchen chair. Said he'd return it when I paid. Marple looked at the fire. And you didn't? No. He left before dark. That's all I know. Marple's tone was calm. Someone met him after that. Mrs. Harper shivered. I prayed it wasn't Henry. Marple stood, her eyes steady, kind but precise. Your husband didn't kill him, she said. Mrs. Harper looked up quickly. You know that? I do. He's many things, but not the kind that plans. Mrs. Harper let out a broken sigh. Then who? Marple picked up her gloves, her voice quiet. Those who fear exposure are never alone in their fear. Mrs. Harper frowned. I don't understand. You will, said Miss Marple gently, then paused at the door, her gaze thoughtful, searching, because in that room she realized Mrs. Harper was not the only one hiding. Miss Marple returned home before midnight. The kettle whistled once, then quieted. She didn't pour tea. She needed thought, not warmth. One scarf, blue silk, taken from the Harper's kitchen, found near the body, too visible to be clever. One glove, brown leather, only one recovered. Left-hand glove missing, dropped near the hedge, not lost, discarded. One ring, removed from the victim's hand. No trace since. A man without money, yet missing jewelry. Contradiction always meant purpose. One letter, folded, no name. Ask about the man at the inn. Arrived before his death. No postmark, delivered by hand. So who walked past her gate that day? She opened her notebook, each page marked neatly. She listed names. Mrs. Harper, Henry Harper, Doctor, Haydock, Faithful, Inspector Craddock. Edith Harper's initials on the scarf, E.H. Yet the photograph showed H.E. reversed. Error? No. Too consistent, too deliberate. Someone wanted it seen that way. A red herring made from cloth and vanity. She turned to the next page. The footprints, wide stride. 2 sets merging near the well. The second faint, smaller. Light shoes, a woman's. She traced a line under it. Snow keeps secrets but not shapes. The weight difference was clear. The killer followed him, waited until he reached the green. She wrote again. He was not robbed. He was silenced. Not for money, for memory. The scarf tied to the past, the ring tied to deceit, the glove tied to the meeting, the letter tied to warning. All parts separate, all pointing inward. Not to Edith Harper, but to someone near her. She stood, paced once. Thought of Mrs. Harper's words. He said he was waiting on a letter. Yes, the same one Marple had received. But why her? To observe, or to shift suspicion? Faithful's comment returned. The cart nearly struck the Snowman. Nearly. Almost. But not accident. Placement matters. Snow was soft where the ground had been disturbed. The body was hidden before the wheel touched it. She wrote one last line. Timing determines truth. Then she paused. Her eyes moved between the scarf, the letter, and the photograph. A pattern began to align. Not random, not chance. Each clue fit the other backward, as if someone built the story in reverse. Her pen stopped mid-line, and Miss Marple whispered, "Oh, my dear, now it makes sense." Because at last the pattern appeared. Morning came grey and silent. No frost, no Sunday. Only the slow melt of what had been hidden. Miss Marple walked to the green. Constable Pork followed. The snowmen were gone now. Broken heaps scattered the grass. But something darker showed beneath. She stopped near the well. The rope hung low, wet, heavier than before. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Pull it up, please," she said. The constable obeyed. The bucket rose, slow and stiff. Water spilled down the sides. Inside something metal glinted faintly. He tipped it over. A ring fell out, rolled once, stopped by her boot. Gold, man size. Set with a small dark stone. Simple, clean. No inscription inside. Marple bent carefully. The metal was cold, too clean for something lost in snow. Wiped, not washed. Pork looked puzzled. Dropped during the struggle? There was no struggle, she said. Then how? She cut him off gently. Someone retrieved it after, and placed it where it could be found. She held it to the light. A faint mark along the band. Polish residue. Scented. Lavender again. She looked toward the inn. The laundry line fluttered faintly in the breeze. A single cloth hung apart. White apron. Stained faintly pink. "Fetch Mrs. Harper," Pork said quickly. "No," Marple answered. "She's not the one." He blinked. "Then who?" "The one who polishes silver on Mondays." He frowned. Faithful? Marple didn't reply. Her silence was enough. They walked back to her cottage. The kitchen was spotless, as always. Faithful stood by the sink, her hands red from soap. She turned, startled. "Ma'am, I didn't expect you so early." Marple placed the ring on the table. Faithful froze. Her lips parted, then closed again. No words came. "Lavender polish," Marple said softly. "You've used it every week, even on things that don't need shining." Faithful's eyes moved to the ring, then away. "I found it," she said quickly. "Outside the gate. I meant to hand it in. But you didn't. I forgot. You never forget." The air felt heavy. Faithful's hands trembled. A drop of soap slid from her wrist. Marple looked at the cloth beside the sink. Faint streaks of blue dye. The same dye from the silk scarf. She reached out, took the ring gently. No need for accusation. No need for anger. Only clarity. The gold was still warm, fresh from her hand. Miss Marple stared at it quietly. She knew whose hand had held it. Miss Marple cleared the table, placed her notes in order. Each clue stood alone. Now they needed sequence. Truth, always hid between hours. She began with the letter. Delivered at noon. Anonymous. Hand, delivered. The man at the gate seen soon after. That was the start. By 3 o'clock, the snow fell thicker. He was still at the inn. Mrs. Harper served tea. Her husband left for deliveries. Faithful fetched coal at that time. No one watched the lane. At 5:30, the cart driver passed the green. He saw 2 shapes by the well, one tall, one small. He thought both were snowmen. He was wrong. 6 o'clock. Church bell rang once. The same moment the scarf disappeared from the Harper kitchen. Faithful had gone to borrow sugar. 5 minutes' walk. Enough time to take it, enough time to place it. At 7, the inn door shut. The Harpers locked up. Mrs. Harper said she was alone. She wasn't. Someone knocked quietly. She opened it. He entered. And Faithful saw. Faithful waited until he left. Followed him. Through snow. Across the green. He stopped near the well. She called his name. He turned, recognized her, and laughed. He didn't see the iron poker in her hand. 8 o'clock. The watch stopped. A single blow. Quick. Clean. Not panic control. Faithful dragged the body toward the snowmen. Children had built them earlier that day. Perfect cover. She lifted Snow, pressed him inside, used the scarf to tie his arm, left the glove to suggest robbery, then returned home, washed the poker, polished the ring. Lavender oil masked the scent of iron. At 9, she brought Miss Marple her tea. Quiet, polite, hands steady, as if nothing had happened. The next morning, she cleaned the kitchen again, too carefully. No ash in the grate, no soot under her nails. But one thing she couldn't hide, the smell, lavender polish, the same that clung to the ring in the well. Miss Marple set her pen down. The sequence was clear now. Each lie timed neatly, each silence placed between minutes. Every story crossed at one point. Not Mrs. Harper, not her husband, not the inspector, only the maid who noticed everything and believed no one ever noticed her. Miss Marple closed her notebook. Her eyes lifted once toward the door. One name remained when all others fell away. Evening again. The village hushed early. Inside the parlor, the air was steady. Faithful stood near the door, hands clasped, face pale. Miss Marple sat opposite her. No one else spoke. Inspector Craddock waited by the mantel, notebook open. He had already asked the questions. Now Marple would ask the right ones. "Faithful," she began softly. "You polished the brass this morning?" "Yes, ma'am." "And yesterday?" "Yes, ma'am." "You also cleaned the well handle last night?" Faithful hesitated. "Yes, it looked dull." Marple nodded once. "The ring we found inside, did it look dull too?" Faithful's throat moved. "I never touched it." Marple's tone didn't change. "Then why was it polished with lavender oil?" Craddock looked up. Faithful's eyes flicked to him, then down again. "I don't know," she whispered. Marple leaned slightly forward. "Let me help you remember." She spoke slowly, fact by fact. "At 6, you left the Harper's kitchen. At past, you passed the lane. At 7, he left the inn. You followed. You met him by the well." Faithful's breath quickened. Her fingers twisted together. "He wanted money. Said he'd tell everyone what I'd done." "And what had you done?" Her voice broke. "I worked for him before, in London. He used my name on papers, false orders, stolen stock. I didn't know until the police came. I ran, changed everything. He found me again." Craddock wrote quickly. "Blackmail again," he muttered. Marple continued, calm as a clock. "You told him no." "Yes." He laughed. "Said I'd always be a servant. Said no one would believe me." Her voice turned sharp. "I didn't plan it. I just wanted him gone." "How?" Marple asked quietly. "He turned his back. I grabbed the poker from the snow. He fell before I knew I'd swung." Silence settled. Even the fire crackled softly, respectful. Faithful stared at her hands. "They'll hang me," she whispered. Marple shook her head gently. "No, they'll see what I see. A frightened woman cornered by her past." Craddock closed his notebook. He didn't speak for a long moment. Finally, he said, "You should have told someone." Faithful looked at him. "No one listens to maids, sir." Marple's eyes softened. "There are kinds of guilt that begin with silence." Faithful nodded once. Tears without noise. No drama. Only the truth standing bare. The inspector led her out quietly. Miss Marple remained seated, her gaze on the poker by the hearth, the iron still faintly marked with frost. She whispered to the empty room, "He never meant to kill." The police wagon left before dawn. No one waved. No one spoke. Faithful sat inside, head bowed, not defiant, not broken, just still. Inspector Craddock watched from the lane. Frost clung to his coat. He turned to Miss Marple. "She'll be charged. Manslaughter, most likely." Marple nodded slowly. "She will tell the truth, and the truth will tell for her." He sighed. "Pity. I liked her. Efficient woman." Marple looked toward the inn. "Efficiency can hide many things." They stood in silence a moment. Then he left. Boots crunching on frozen ground. Each step fading into the quiet. The village woke cautious. Curtains lifted. Doors cracked open. Mrs. Price Ridley hurried to the grocer's. Mrs. Bantry whispered at the post. Everyone had an opinion. None had accuracy. "Terrible thing," one said. "She seemed so proper," another added. "She fooled us all." Miss Marple passed them gently. She neither confirmed nor denied. At the vicarage, Mrs. Clement offered tea. "Do you believe she meant it?" Marple stirred her cup. "No. Fear acts faster than intent, and once begun, it seldom stops where one expects." The vicar nodded. "Justice must be done, I suppose." "Justice," she repeated softly, "or mercy." They seldom arrived together. Outside, the snow had almost gone. Bare earth showed again, clean at first glance, but underneath, small pools of meltwater remained. Memory doesn't vanish with weather. Marple walked home by the long road. The green looked ordinary again. The well stood quiet. Children had rebuilt one. Snowman. Smaller, smiling, innocent, always beginning again. At her gate, she paused. The postman passed with a nod. "Morning, Miss Marple. Morning, Mr. Wells." He handed her an envelope. Plain paper, folded corners, no name, no seal. She turned it once in her hand. Familiar weight. Familiar silence. Inside, nothing but a single red thread. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Threads always lead somewhere, even after the story ends. She tucked it in her pocket. The kettle would boil soon, and when it did, she'd decide whether to tell anyone. Because some truths, she knew, don't end with confession. They wait for the next one. Steam rose slowly from the cup. The room was still. No voices, only the sound of the kettle settling. Davis's voice came softly. Truth cools slower than tea. He paused. Some hearts meant no harm, only fear. He looked toward the window. Snow drifted faintly past the glass. Fear makes people hide, and hiding turns small lies into larger ones. He stirred his tea once. The village will forget by spring, but Miss Marple never does. She carries memory like others carry keys. He smiled faintly. Faithful wanted freedom, and freedom, taken the wrong way, became her prison. A quiet sip, then stillness again. Mercy, he said softly, isn't about forgetting. It's about seeing without hate. He set his cup down, the sound gentle, final. Outside, the church bell struck 8. One clean tone. One reminder that time keeps its promises, even when people don't. Davis glanced once toward the window. The cup's steam faded. Truth lingered longer. He spoke the final line quietly. And forgiveness takes time. The kettle clicked again. Somewhere far off, a knock echoed once. Soft, unanswered. And so, another mystery cools with the kettle. Davis's voice softened. The snow has melted, but the questions remain. He smiled through the words. What moment caught your attention tonight? Was it the letter, the scarf, or the hand that meant no harm? A brief pause. Tell me in the comments below. I always read them. Every thought, every theory. It's how our little village stays alive. The faint sound of pages turning. Where are you listening from tonight? I like to imagine each cup of tea beside a quiet lamp, each listener part of this same story. He chuckled softly. Some say Miss Marple never forgets, but I think she forgives faster than most of us do. That's her gift, seeing truth without bitterness. He poured another cup. Steam rose, calm and steady. Thank you for sharing this quiet evening with us. You make these stories more than words. You make them warm. A kettle hissed once in the distance. Davis lowered his voice. Rest well, keep curious, and remember, he paused just long enough for silence to breathe. Tomorrow, another kettle will boil. 1. Attic. Locked for 20 years. Dust thick, air still. One vanished letter. Never sent, never read. A curtain moves where no wind blows. A chair waits beneath it. And a single candle burns low. Miss Marple will climb those steps, quietly, carefully. Because some truths don't stay buried, they wait to be found. Tomorrow, we'll open it together.